U.S. used powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees during the Maduro raid, according to a witness account. I got up this morning. I browsed the news for, 10 minutes. Mostly just reading titles. And some people say, oh, you run out of content. How can you ever run out of something to talk about? All you got to do is open up the first news site. There's plenty to talk about. You want to talk about international politics and what's going on in the world. So no lady, I'll come to my show to escape what's going on in the world. But I was out here working on my tan. I said, you know what? Let me just fire up the camera. I'll read you this article. The U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood during the daring raid to capture dictator. Here we go with the propaganda. What's the difference between dictator and president? It's from whose perspective that you're trying to shape the hearts and minds. This is from the New York Post. So they're using the term dictator, which means they're on board Team USA. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just bringing up facts. To capture dictator Nicolas Maduro, according to a witness account posted Saturday on X by the White House press secretary. Now, this is what made this interesting to me, because you never know what to believe, what's propaganda. So I saw this on the New York Post. That's what I'm going to read from. But the White House press secretary made a post, and I'm going to read that too. It's basically in the interview style. In a jaw-dropping interview, the guard described how American forces wiped out hundreds of fighters without losing a single soldier, using technology unlike anything he has ever seen or heard. We were on guard, but suddenly all of our radar systems shut down without explanation. The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones, flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. Moments later, a handful of helicopters appeared, barely 8 by his count, deploying what he estimated were just 20 U.S. troops into the area. But those few men, he said, came armed with something far more powerful than guns. They were technologically very advanced, the guard recalled. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. What ensued, he said, was not a battle, but a slaughter. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. They were shooting with such precision and speed, it felt like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute. Then came the weapon that still haunts him. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt my head was exploding from the inside. The effects were immediate and horrific. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. The White House did not immediately respond to a question regarding whether Caroline Leavitt's sharing of the post caption, "Stop what you are doing and read this," indicated the administration was verifying the veracity of the eyewitness account. And again, I'll read the her tweet. What do you call it now? It's on X. I don't know what you call it, right? An estimated 100 Venezuelan security guards were killed in the January 3rd attack, according to the country's Interior Ministry. It is unclear if any of those were caused by the mystery weapon. The outmatched defenders were helpless as the small U.S. unit wiped them out, the guard said. Those 20 men, without a single casualty, killed hundreds of us. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons. I swear I've never seen anything like it. The military has had directed energy weapons, which neutralize targets using focused energy such as microwave or laser beams for years. But this could be the first time it's been used in combat by the U.S. An ex-U.S. intelligence source told the Post. China reportedly used a microwave weapon in 2020 against Indian soldiers during a border dispute. The source noted that those weapons have capacity to produce at least some of the symptoms, including bleeding, inability to move or function, pain, and burning. I can't say all of those symptoms, but yes, some, the source said. We've had versions for decades. After the raid, the message couldn't be more clear. Don't tread on Uncle Sam, the Maduro loyalist said. Now he says the message is clear. Don't tread on Uncle Sam. Same thing he just said. I'm sending a warning to anyone who thinks they can fight the United States. They have no idea what they're capable of. After what I saw, I never want to be on the other side of that again. They're not to be messed with. The Guard said the raid has already sent shockwaves across Latin America, especially after President Trump recently warned that Mexico is now on the list. Everyone is already talking about this, he said. No one wants to go through what we went through. What happened here is going to change a lot of things, not just in Venezuela, but throughout the region. So that's the article from the Post, and then if you click on the tweet that was shared by Caroline, is it Levitt or Leavitt? I don't know. Levitt? I guess it's Levitt, right? I don't know. I don't watch the news, okay? I read titles. Maybe if I read 20 titles, 3 interest me. I don't sit there and listen to talking heads all day. I don't have time. Life's too short. So Caroline reposts, and this is on X.com. Again, I'm confused. You call it a tweet. Stop what you are doing and read this with 5 U.S. flag emojis. She's at press secretary, right? Or at press sec is her handle. And this is from Mike Netter. I have no idea who he is, never heard of him. Let's see. This account from a Venezuelan security guard loyal to Nicolas Maduro is absolutely chilling. And it explains a lot about why the tone across Latin America suddenly changed. And this is interview style. So the security guard says, on the day of the operation, we didn't hear anything coming. We were on guard, but suddenly all our radar systems shut down without any explanation. The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones, flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. The interviewer. So what happened next? How was the main attack? Security guard. After those drones appeared, some helicopters arrived, but there were very few. I think barely 8 helicopters. From those helicopters, soldiers came down, but a very small number. Louder the motorbike, dumber the operator. Get out of their way. From those helicopters, soldiers came down, but a very small number, maybe 20 men. But those men were technologically very advanced. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. Interviewer. And then the battle began? Security guard. Yes, but it was a massacre. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. They were shooting with such precision and speed, it seemed like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute. We couldn't do anything. Interviewer, and your own weapons, didn't they help? Security guard, no help at all, because it wasn't just the weapons. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. Interviewer: and your comrades, did they manage to resist? Security guard: no, not at all. Those 20 men, without a single casualty, killed hundreds of us. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons, I swear. I've never seen anything like it. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. Interviewer: so do you think the rest of the region should think twice before confronting the Americans? Security guard: without a doubt. I'm sending a warning to anyone who thinks they can fight the United States. They have no idea what they're capable of. After what I saw, I never want to be on the other side of that again. They're not to be messed with. Interviewer: and now that Trump has said Mexico is on the list, do you think the situation will change in Latin America? Security guard: definitely. Everyone is already talking about this. No one wants to go through what we went through. Now everyone thinks twice. What happened here is going to change a lot of things, not just in Venezuela, but throughout the region. Now that's the post. Verbatim, sort of repeating what the article said, but I figured I'd just double tap it. I don't know very much about what went down. I just want to talk broad strokes on the back end. The fact that the U.S. had to secure the Orinoco oil belt, it's just something that had to be done. It's not they just thought about this and cooked this up. You know, if you're sitting in the White House, you're thinking of 100, 200, 500 year planning horizon. And that's very difficult for most of us to comprehend, because how do the average person, how far is their planning horizon? In America, we plan like months at a time, right? Can you pay your bills for the month? Middle class plans like a month at a time. Come over here to a place like the Philippines, folks' planning horizon is day by day. It's daily survival. Can I make enough money today to buy some rice to feed everybody tonight? So they have a 1 day planning horizon. Middle class, like a month to 3 months. As you climb on up, your planning horizon broadens, right? And so by the time you get to the White House, or heads of the United States, China, Russia, you're planning hundreds of years into the future. So if anybody thinks that this was cooked up recently, then you're not understanding the planning horizons of world leaders. I did a video, I don't know, 5 years ago. It wasn't nothing new then. I'll put the link down in the description if you want to know what my thoughts are on the whole situation. But it boils down to this. We humans have to fight over resources. One of those main resources is oil, because at some point it's going to run out. The last man standing with access to oil will be in total control. If you don't believe me, just study World War II. Ask Rommel how important fuel is. Hard decisions have to be made at some point. Got the world's largest chunk of oil. Do you want to let China go down there and get it? Hell no, because I don't want my kids to have to speak Chinese and look like Nazi robots. There's the way things are supposed to be in the world, and there's the way things are. So broad stroke, we had to secure the Orinoco oil belt to prevent China and Russia from securing it. End of story. Everything else is just stirring mashed potatoes around on the table, on the plate. Just bullshit to skew people's opinions this way. How many people got killed, what weapons, all that's absolutely irrelevant if you look at the broad strokes. If you're sitting in the White House, you're just looking at broad strokes, hundreds of years in the future. Big ass oil field in our hemisphere. Got to secure it. Panama Canal, we had to secure it. And then everybody else can just argue and debate the particulars. So should I continue on this tangent? I don't think I'm going to. I've already said what I wanted to say. I appreciate the fact that at least now there's an administration who's coming out and saying, we're there taking the oil and we're going to control it. We're going to control 55% of the world's oil. Why? Because we have to. Now they ramped up to this with the bullshit drug excuse, but at least now they put it out there. They're still going to put this fool through a trial. It's unnecessary. Okay, that's unnecessary, just a waste of time. I think that now, since we've come out and said, hey, this is about oil, we're taking the fucking oil, prosecuting this dude and this whole lady, it's just a waste of taxpayer money. You know what I mean? Let them, give them $1 million, let them go retire in Dubai. Save the taxpayers money. No need to put on the show or the charades from now on. No need to blow up any more little boats with a couple hundred kilos, which is impacting the drug war 0.0%. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. But that article did catch my attention. I said some people would probably be interested in hearing that. What's the blowback from that? Let's talk about the blowback. All these smaller nations are going to fall in line, because they're sitting there thinking, shit, that could happen to me too. But it's nothing new. None of these nations can stand against the U.S. military, and they never have. It's just whether or not somebody is willing to utilize that force to obtain political objectives. Smedley's book, War is a Racket. Okay? Militaries are used to facilitate and further political objectives, which are tied back to money and power. We're not fighting for freedom. We're not fighting for democracy. If you want to believe that, go ahead. What the blowback is that everybody's going to fall in line. Is that positive? Is that negative? Well, it's positive when you deal with these countries from Mexico south. But what message does it send to China? And what message does it send to Russia? This dude's there. He's willing to go this far. It's not like going to Pakistan and ripping Osama bin Laden out of his bedroom. They went down and took a president. A little bit different. So what message does it send to China? It's a question I present to you, especially since Chinese ships are right out here in the South China Sea, the West Philippine Sea. They keep getting closer and closer. They're building islands, going force on force, Philippine government vessels. What does this tell China? And was there a deal made behind closed doors? Hey, you're going to get the hell out of Venezuela, and we're going to take it whether you like it or not, but y'all stand down, bide your time. We'll let y'all take Taiwan. We won't do anything about it. It's not easy ruling a kingdom, okay? Say a couple hundred people lost their lives down in Venezuela. Does those couple hundred lives save thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands going different routes? If you could save 200,000 by sacrificing 200, would you? Well, of course you would. So everybody's going to be on different sides of the fence. But I read that one statement one time that said, every living organism is in a violent life or death struggle against every or other living organism. Now think about that. Everything. That's life. You're constantly in a fucking battle over resources, food, air, water, the ability to breathe. I'm sitting here on my balcony enjoying the sunshine, and it was actually pretty cool when I first sat down here. It's getting hot now. Sun was behind the cloud, a little bit of shade tree. It's like my buddy said, who went and he was with him over in Thailand. He went in the robes, as they say. He went and he was a monk for 6 months out in this small temple out in the middle of nowhere as one other monk. The only time he left the temple during that 6 months was to go re-up his immigration, his retirement visa. And he came out of it and we said, what'd you learn? He basically said when he came out of the 6 month sort of isolation, he checked all the news and tried to catch up on this and this, and he said once he was done, what he realized was that none of that shit he missed in the past 6 months on the news made any difference in his life, because he did not have the ability to change it, to affect it, nothing. So he said, what I realized was me watching the news and getting mad at the TV every day is a waste of my time. He said, I no longer watch the news, read the news, don't give a fuck. He said, the only thing I give a fuck about is my Social Security check and my pension getting put in my bank account every month. But if I go there and something happened to where it's no more, there's nothing that any of us can do about it anyhow if things have got that bad. Basically, the 6 months in isolation taught me I don't worry about shit no more, especially at, I don't know, what was he, 75, 80 years old? Now, obviously, the younger you are, the more you need to stay in tune. But unless you're willing to run for office or get out there and protest, what does sitting there bitching at the TV, getting your blood pressure up, leaving posts and just being pissed off all the time, how does that help you in your life? A lot of people hit me, you don't even live here, you don't have a right to say it. Yeah, whatever, say what the fuck you want. I say what the fuck I want. Okay, I think I've earned the right to say what the fuck I want to say about my home country. That's the way it's going to be. But if I truly want to affect change, or to get in there and have my voice heard, I'd be over there right now in a suit and tie, running for office and rumbling with the system from within. But I'm not. I'm sitting here on this fucking balcony, enjoying the sunshine. 52-year-old pirate. It's like my buddy said the other day. He said, man, the world is for young people. It's not for old people. People in their 20s, 30s, 40s, mid-teens and up. It's their world now. We've turned over the reins. That's just the way it is. So most of you watching my show, you're my age or older. Yeah, you can still vote, but there's a balance of whether or not getting your blood pressure up and getting pissed off at the TV every day is going to help you live longer or live a more healthy life, or just turn the shit off and be like my buddy, late 70s, don't give a fuck. Nothing he can say to the TV is going to change the world. So he just got rid of it, stopped watching. So there you go, folks. There's my little political talk. Was that a soft political talk? I really didn't take a stand either way. But I'll still have people get pissed off at me because I read 2 articles and just threw a little commentary in there. But to close out, again, the broad strokes are we fight over resources, especially those that are limited. And what we fight over the most is oil. That's what's going on in Venezuela. Pretty simple. And those of you who have any opposition to the U.S. going down there and securing it, I'll just ask you the question. Would you rather China go down there and secure that oil field? Would you rather Russia have control of it in the same hemisphere as the United States? I just posed the question to you. Early bird gets the worm. International law, it's just ink on paper. It doesn't mean shit. Laws mean nothing. Whoever's got the biggest fucking stick and is willing to use it, that's who's in charge. It doesn't matter about ink on paper. International law. Yeah, you think the Chinese are fucking concerned with international law, what they're doing? You think the U.S. is concerned with international law? No, nobody is. Nobody's concerned with that. If you're the top dogs, ink on paper means nothing. Just ask some chick who, is the victim of abuse or a stalker or some shit like that and went and got a restraining order. And the dude's breaking the door down and she's holding up some fucking ink on paper. It ain't helping her. It's whoever's got the biggest stick, the biggest guns, and who's willing to use it. Laws. I used to be in law enforcement. I realized just how much of most of it's just a waste of ink on paper and trees and fucking lawyers trying to memorize shit and present shit. What a fucking waste of time. Because when the bombs start raining down, the wolf comes knocking at the door, ink on paper don't mean shit. Tell me how many laws there are in America right now. Can't nobody answer that. Okay, quote 10 laws. You probably couldn't do it. You quote the 10 commandments, but you couldn't quote 10 code sections in your own state. But there's books and books and books of it. Reminds me of that movie where there was that flood and they're in that, no, it's freezing, right? What's the name of it? Well, they're in that library. They're trying to stay warm. And the homeless guy's like, hey, man, there's some tax. Or somebody said, hey, there's a tax code or something. That's the first books they burn because nobody gives a shit. Fucking ink on paper means nothing when the bombs start raining down on your head. Or people start fast roping out of helicopters onto the roof, directed energy weapons. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he does not need to follow international law and is guided solely by what he described as his own morality. The remark comes after the abduction of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by American commandos last Saturday. Now, this is from a different news source, so you noticed a different language, right? They're using the terms abduction, referring to him as a president, where all of the mainstream media that's playing well with the White House, they're going to use the terms dictator, arrest, indicted, drug trafficking suspect, all that stuff. You see the bullshit, right? Also in recent days, Trump and several officials have repeated that the U.S. would take possession of Denmark's autonomous territory of Greenland one way or the other. In an interview with the New York Times on Wednesday, the U.S. president made clear that he would not be restrained in exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. My own morality, my own mind, it's the only thing that can stop me. I don't need international law. When pressed further as to whether he really thought that Washington did not need to abide by global norms, Trump seemed to somewhat soften his stance. However, he hastened to add that it depends on what your definition of international law is, suggesting that the final say on its applicability to the U.S. would lie solely with him. Folks, again, in international law, it's just ink on paper. It's whoever has the biggest stick and is willing to use it. On Thursday, Trump signed a memo suspending support for 66 international organizations, agencies, commissions, and several UN bodies that operate contrary to U.S. national interests, security, economic prosperity, or sovereignty. I'm all for it. When you say the word UN, it's just useless knuckleheads. I understand the word knucklehead starts with a K, but it fits perfectly. Useless knuckleheads. We've just been giving away America's wealth and our tax money around the world to people who don't deserve it, who don't work for it, it doesn't benefit the United States taxpayer in any way. We've been doing it for so long and too long, At least somebody's in there now. Stop giving out free money to people outside of America. How about giving some free money to Americans so they can put Jimmy Dean sausage on their breakfast table instead of cheap hot dogs? Interview with the Times, he doubled down that Greenland should come under Washington's control. His Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, reiterated it's their formal position that the U.S. should have Greenland as part of the overall security apparatus. That same day, the Danish Prime Minister said she believed that the U.S. should be taken seriously, the U.S. President should be taken seriously when he says he wants Greenland. She warned that if the U.S. were to attack another NATO country militarily, everything would stop, including NATO itself. My naive vixen, what do you think NATO is? NATO is United States taxpayer money. If it weren't for United States taxpayer money, there would be no NATO. Trust me. In Afghanistan, okay, all these NATO countries sent troops over there. Everybody had great ideas. Who do you think paid for that shit? The United States taxpayer. You could sit in a meeting with 12 different countries represented. They come up with their PowerPoint slide with their great fucking idea, the good idea fairy. And you know what they had to contribute financially to the project? Fucking zero. They would all come up with their ideas and in their uniforms, and they're always going to look to the American commander because he's the only one that has access to money to fund the project. NATO, that's as useless as the UN. It's United States taxpayer money. So the question is, how did the U.S. get into the position where we just fucking give everybody in the world free money? But the poor guy working at Jiffy Lube, changing oil all day, can't pay his bills because the U.S. federal government is taking so much money out of his paycheck. Can't put Jimmy Dean sausage on the table. But Captain Funnybeard Zelensky is over there putting billions squirreling away into his bank account so when he flees to Dubai, he can live happily ever after. You know, eating high on the hog. But where that money come from, the working class people of the United States of America can't afford to put groceries on the fucking table. Earlier this week, a group of several EU leaders plus the UK issued a carefully worded joint statement defending Greenland's status as part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Okay, look. Broad strokes. Before Trump took over, the U.S. was the Titanic. It's a sinking ship. I think at least at this point, we're welding patches onto those jagged cuts into the Titanic's hull. I guess the word would be there's hope at this point. But from the average American's point of view, are these decisions radical? Yeah, because for too long, the U.S. has been not taking care of the U.S. So there you go. There's some more fucking politics. I'm all for pulling out of all of these bullshit international organizations. Don't give the UN one fucking penny. Don't give the Ukraine one fucking penny. Don't give NATO one fucking penny. Y'all don't want me to be president. I said it in previous videos. The word I guess would be radical, but I don't look at it like that. I would be much more decisive, even more decisive than Trump. Because the funny thing happens when you leave your home country and you look at it from the outside looking in, you learn so much more than you did when you're there. And so I've been looking from the outside looking in for so long. I see things that I never saw when I lived there. That other countries do to take care of their people, that's just commonplace. Countries around the world think we're absolutely just insane for giving away citizenship the way we do. Go to these other countries and try to get citizenship. They think we're crazy for giving people citizenship. It's a broken system. It's a difficult system, but still. Pick a country, go there as an American and try to get fucking citizenship. But people come to the U.S. Anyhow, all right, that's enough of the rant. I'm out of here. That's as much politics as I want to talk. I'm going to crank up my music, smoke my pipe, and just enjoy my day. See y'all on the next one. Peace out, my friends.